This is the School Success Podcast, a podcast for school leaders to learn from other school leaders what's working and what's not, and to get inspiration and encouragement, as well as strategies to grow school enrollment, connect with families, retain teachers, recruit teachers, and everything in between. You guys are heroes, and I cannot thank you enough for pouring into this next generation that's coming behind us. My goal is you will take at least one thing away from every episode that you can take back to your school to make it better than it is right now. Please enjoy the School Success Podcast. This podcast is brought to you by the Herzog Foundation.
Time for school.
Hey, School Success Makers. Welcome to another edition of the School Success Podcast. I'm your host, Mitchell Slater. I'm joined by a new friend out of Parsippany, New Jersey, Dale Seabury, who is the owner and founder of Seabury Consulting. And she works with schools and is doing a lot of really cool things that when I talk with her, I was like, oh my goodness, this would be a perfect complement of what we do and how we help schools and what she is able to help and do with schools as well. So I was like, let's talk about all of that on a podcast episode because we're all about making you school leaders better and your schools better. So we're going to do that on today's episode. But before we dive into all the nitty gritty fun stuff in the episode, I want to pass it off to Dale to introduce herself. So Dale, welcome to the podcast today.
Thanks so much for having me, Mitchell. I'm really honored to be here. So I have been working in the independent school space for almost 18 years. I spent 13 years at a K through 12 in New Jersey. Here where I am for 13 years and over 1,100 students, 2 campuses. And I did a variety of roles there. I worked in admission. I was the director of financial aid. And most recently, I was the director of communications and marketing, among several other things. And now as a consultant, I just love helping schools of all sizes and cultures to take their marketing and communications to the next level. And I love everything from vision and strategy to the really day-to-day detailed support. And my goal is always to help schools enroll more mission-aligned students and maximize the retention and engagement of their current community. And I'll just say that I loved when I was at the Pingree School being an advisor to high schoolers. I did that for over a decade, and I continue to get my student fix now by supporting an admission counseling firm. So a firm that serves college and independent school applicants and helping them find and get into right fit schools. And these conversations, they just give me so much insight into the perspective of students and parents who are applying to schools like yours. So it just brings me a lot of insight, and I try to bring that to my clients. And that's a bit about me.
Perfect. Well, we're going to have a fun time on this episode today because we're going to talk a lot about marketing. We're going to talk specifically about the admissions page in just a few minutes. But before we dive into all that, I always start with the same question for every guest. And it's if I was to visit you in New Jersey where you are, what would you say, Mitchell, you need to eat this and do this to experience your area of New Jersey?
Well, we have amazing pizza. And to judge a good pizza, you have to have plain, in my humble opinion. So I get toppings personally, but if you want to really compare, plain pizza, bagels as well. And then you want an activity. Mm-hmm. Well, within driving distance of where I am in New Jersey, you can either get beautiful beaches where I'm from in Cape May, which is the very southern tip. And you can also be to the mountains for some great hiking and skiing, both within like 2.5 hours. So pretty cool.
Okay. All right. So get some bagels and pizza and then go shred it up on the slopes or go to the beach. I like it. Perfect. Well, as we dive in, I know you and I were chatting about this, and we know as schools, they have websites. They need to do some things that are better, in our opinions, to say like, hey, how do we attract more families and get them to engage and ideally enroll in the school? And we were specifically talking, you and me, about the admissions page. And there are things that schools can do to improve their admissions page, things they can add to their admissions page. And you specifically told me there's 9 that you were going to encourage people to do on today's episode. So here's what I'd love to do. I'd love to hear the 9, and then let's maybe dive into a few that really piqued my interest because I hadn't heard the list of 9 yet, guys. So this is all live. This is good live back and forth conversation. So Dale, what are the 9 people need to be doing with their admissions page?
Okay, so breaking news. On a school's tuition page, which it tends to be the most visited page of the website after the homepage. And why not, right? Because families are really wondering, what is this going to cost? Is this going to be accessible to my family? So most visited page usually after the homepage, and your Google Analytics can show you that. It also tends to have a really high bounce rate because people get sticker shock and then they leave, and you've never accounted for them if that's the case. So these are some strategies. These are some things to think about including. And I would say to not be overwhelmed, maybe try to mentally think of 3 that your school could potentially implement. But I'll go through them quickly now. And then, like you said, Mitchell, you can pick my brain as the ones that seem most interesting. I think every tuition page should start with an overview statement, very brief, that includes the school's value proposition and language that's very value or investment centric. The other day I was speaking with a prospective parent, and she said she was told recently, if you're not going to invest in your kids, who will you invest in? I'm talking like language like that. Number 2 would be media, especially video, about what makes the school special. And we could talk some more about that maybe, but something really engaging, because this goes along with number 3, stats, infographics, quick facts, because as humans, we process images 60,000 times faster than text. So on this very important page, we want to be including really high quality media, whether it's images or video, and even infographics that communicate a lot in a very quick amount of time. Okay, number 4, links to strong content on other pages of the website, because you've got their attention now. You want them to learn more about the different, strong, unique aspects of your school and not have them leave your website. So link them to those things. Number 5, testimonials. You'll hear some people talk about this as a social proof. It's really, really effective in marketing to let your prospective families hear from other community members. I'd say most importantly, other parents, current parents, but also students, faculty and staff, alumni. Ask those people directly about what is the value of attending that school, and then post that on your tuition page. Number 6, easy access to financial aid. And if you have payment plans, payment plan information, because I am all about accessibility before the fees. Before people even learn what your tuition is, they should be really convinced that the school could be accessible to them. And I love, Mitchell, how you talk about the word accessible over affordable, because those are 2 very different meanings. And I fully agree with that. Number 7, I think the tuition page should have at least 2 relevant calls to action, CTAs. And I would suggest that one of them be kind of lower commitment. So maybe not so scary to a prospective family. It could be something like, download our free guide of how to select the right school for your child, like a lead generator. Or it could be subscribe to our blog. A higher commitment CTA would be schedule a tour, schedule a meeting with our head of school, schedule a call with a member of admissions staff. So give them options, but be really specific about what are we asking you to do. And I think, Mitchell, you've talked on this as well. Don't say, learn more. Tell them what they're going to do. Tell them what you want them to do for a purpose. Okay, number 8. If your school has an annual fund or any type of philanthropic giving program, which most of our schools do, because tuition typically doesn't cover the whole cost of educating a student, I think you should have a brief statement on your tuition page about how tuition doesn't cover the full cost of educating a student. Talk a little bit about whatever philanthropic giving program you have, and who participates in it, which shows them a little bit about, wow, all these people are really invested in this school. And then you start educating a potential family really early on as to, hey, if you enroll in this school, we're going to be asking you to make some level of donation. And this is just a normal part of being part of our community. And then finally, number 9, you either would be inviting a family to call your school and learn what tuition and fees are, which would be preferable. That it would be preferable. If you're a size of school that can handle each one of those calls and field them appropriately and nurture each one of those prospects, then I'd say absolutely. That should be the last thing is, okay, now call to get our tuition. We would love to talk specifically to you and answer your questions. However, I've worked with schools that are larger as well, and they don't have the bandwidth to take all those individual calls. They have to put their tuition on the website. Otherwise, they couldn't run their admission season. And in that case, it's the very last thing. After a family has seen all these other amazing value-driven pieces of information, and they've seen the accessibility of financial aid. So that's the 9. Where should we go now?
So I'm going to highlight real quick, and I love that you also doubled down on it more, but when you kept mentioning accessible, and I love that. And so all the schools listening, just make sure, like, if you're using the word, like the actual word affordable, please don't use the word affordable. Like, use the word accessible. Like, you don't want to be known as the cheap school in the area. You want to be known as, like, we're accessible to everybody. It just sounds so much better, and it makes both people on the maybe the higher end side to have more money, and the lower end side, like, it works for both sides of it. You do not want to be known as, again, the cheap school or the best kept secret in the area, which I hear regularly from the Christian schools, that we're the best kept secret, and that's not a good thing. We don't want to be the best kept secret. We want people to know who we are, what we do, what we're about. So I love that you doubled down on that and you said accessible. I do want to go back to one of the first things you mentioned when you mentioned the admissions page, and you said, hey, it has second most visited, but it also has the highest bounce rate. Just for those listening that maybe don't know what bounce rate is when we're talking about website visitors, because I'm sure they're going to see that on their analytics on a lot of pages and be like, we have a really high bounce rate, but what is that? I'd love you to explain what that is, just so schools are aware of what that means.
So that would be the percentage of visitors who exit the site entirely from that page. They bounce, as the youngsters would say, and they leave. And we don't want that. We don't want that after it is likely that this was the first page that they visited, or maybe the second, which means they have not learned much about the school, and they probably are never going to come to the school and meet with any member of the school staff because they got that sticker shock or they got overwhelmed. So we don't want that.
Hey, school success makers, Mitchell here. I just want to take a really quick break from the show to give a big, huge shout out to the Herzog Foundation. I absolutely love the Herzog Foundation. I've been friends and partners with them for a couple of years now, but we're bringing it to a whole new level. And I'm excited to share that our very own School Success podcast is now featured on the Herzog Foundation Podcast Network. The Herzog Foundation is a powerhouse of resources designed to support schools like yours, from free training events through the Herzog Foundation Institute to their incredible online news publication, The Lion, and of course, our new podcast, Home. They have everything you need to stay informed and inspired. And if you're dreaming of starting your own Christian school or co-op, don't miss their online course, Schoolbox. It's a fantastic resource to help you get started on the right foot. At School Success, we're proud to partner with the Herzog Foundation to bring you these valuable tools and insights. So visit herzogfoundation.com to explore all they have to offer. Trust me, you won't want to miss out on these amazing opportunities for growth and success. And I love all the people over there, and I know you guys will too. So please go check them out, and you won't be disappointed. Now, back to the show.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly. So those that see that when you pull up your analytics, which Dale was mentioning, that is free. If you guys don't have Google Analytics on your site, you can have your web person put that on your site. It is free, and you should do so. If you do not have it, please do it like this week, like today, because it does not go backwards in time. So if you don't have it on right now, you can't go, if you add it today, you can't see the stats from a year ago, 2 months ago, or the day before. You see it from the day that the code was placed on the website for Google Analytics. But if you guys are the site that does have that, man, go check out how many people are even going to your site right now. You can see it all from analytics.google.com. You can go see your login if you have an account there, and see how many people are actually going to my site, how many are going to the admissions page. I think you would be really surprised of how big that number is, because what's really interesting is when you go for simple numbers, let's say you have 100 people that go to your website a month, which is, it's not a ton, but you have 100, and then you go, oh, we have 90 going to the admissions page, but we only got 2 phone calls this week or this month. What happened to the other 97, 98 like people that came to this website that didn't even inquire to us? And so it's actually really good to know where are they going, and then what happened to them. Are we actually getting people that are calling us in? So I just want to, again, highlight that. Thank you, Dale, for jumping into that one. For the video, so I love what you mentioned, having a video on there, and how we like to do images and videos. We connect better with that than we do with words. What are some of the things we should be putting in that video? And should we get that professionally done, or can our iPhones do a good enough video that we can put on our admissions page?
I say you do what your school can do. Some video, I believe, is better than no video, and you can do a lot internally, even with just an iPhone. And I do think that the trend is going in the direction of families preferring the more authentic and less professional looking videos. But this is a really important video, the admission sort of general video that I think should go on this tuition page. And so I'd say this is the video designed to introduce people to your school as a whole. It's not a deep dive on a particular program. It's not, a day in the life of one student, which is probably not going to give you a big enough overview. It's ideally something that is going to give you sort of the broad introduction to the school. What makes your school unique? And the voices of some of the community members. And gosh, when you get students and faculty on video and you ask them good questions, which again, you can do internally, it is magic. It's really magic to get those testimonials live. So, hear directly from our students, hear directly from our parents. And I work with schools where they'll have me interview parents for, quotes that will go on their website. And then once I get a sense of, how strong the parents' recommendation is, then I'll ask them, would you be willing to do a video as well? And I kind of get a sense of how they'd be on camera. And so many times they'll say yes. They want to promote something that's been really helpful to their families. So I'd say some video over none. If you can do a professional video, awesome. But you want to keep it short either way. No longer than really like 2.5 minutes. And that's only if that's really engaging content throughout. Even better would be 30 to 45 seconds. It depends on how long it takes to actually tell the story. And that's what you want it to do, is actually tell the story.
And I think schools would be surprised if how much you can get across in under 60 seconds. I think a lot of times we think the more we share, the better it's going to do. And honestly, I feel like a lot of times it isn't actually the opposite. The longer you go on, the more you're going to lose people. And so if you should be able to get, in my opinion, I feel like you should be able to get your point across and be able to convince people in 60 seconds or less with something. Now, that's just the first. We're talking about just the admissions page. It's kind of low-hanging fruit, I guess I'd say. They're already there, but if they want to have more, learn more, that's when they're going to be in an interview with having an academic consultation or a tour. That's when the big long descriptions and communication come from, or when they get the handout during the application process, hey, here's our code of ethics, here's what we dive, that all comes later. We're not trying to have them watch a novel here before they can to learn about the admissions process. We want to keep it short, in my opinion, short and sweet and to the point, which is kind of what you're leaning towards, it sounds like, right?
Absolutely. And I just want to encourage schools to say that if you have a video already, let's say on your homepage, you can repurpose that, because not everybody is going to watch the homepage video, number one. And you can consider doing overlay text to make it kind of unique. And then it would be more centered on value and investment, because we're talking about the tuition and the investment of private schools. So I think there's a lot of ways to get around budgetary constraints and be creative, but it is nice to have video on this highly visited page.
And video's not going anywhere anytime soon, I don't think. So if you guys haven't invested in some type of video, I do encourage you guys to do so. Maybe you have somebody in your group of families that does video that could come in, or maybe you have a student that is just super talented in video and editing. Like, man, I'm not saying you have to spend $10,000 here to get something made, but you might have people in your circle of influence in the school that you could put out or ask, going, hey, we need some professional photos or some video done. And see if you have somebody come in that would do it either really, really affordably for you guys to help out because they're part of the school, or maybe they just do it for free as a gift to the school. You never know, but you can always use the people that are currently in your circle of influence. I would love to jump into, I know you and I talked about this beforehand and you explained it really well, but like the tuition on and off the website. So, I used to be on the side of like, oh, you should always have it on the website because I love transparency. And then I heard a lot of different arguments on the side of taking it off and why and what's happening psychologically. And I was like, oh, you know what? I am on that side. But you had mentioned, hey, there's the couch. You mentioned the couch. You're like, oh, it's the couch I'm sitting on. It's like both sides. And so I'd love to hear your take a little bit more deeper on if it should be or shouldn't be on the website for those that are maybe on the fence about that.
Yeah, well, I think this has to become a logistical and practical decision in many ways, because if you are blessed as a school to have so many prospective families visiting your website and wanting to know your tuition that you couldn't effectively field individual phone calls with each of them, then you're going to need to list tuition on your website, in my opinion, because you don't want to be frustrating your prospective clients by withholding the information that they most want. I think it is ideal, however, if you can have one-on-one conversations, if your staff can be trained to not only, oh, this is what it is for grade 2, but first, let me take down your information. What is it that you're looking for your child? Wow, these are the programs that we have that could meet your needs. And that is really what marketing is all about, is identifying the need and meeting it in your target audience. So if you can do a really good job with those high touch contacts, then absolutely that's the way to go. Especially because hopefully they've gotten to the bottom of your tuition page and realized, oh, they're not going to give me the numbers right here. However, wow, what an incredible school this seems to be. I do want to learn more. I've worked with countless schools, and I go on websites all the time to look, where you go to their tuition page and it is literally just tuition listed out by grade and the fees. There might be some quick mention of financial aid and maybe a link to a financial aid page. I'm arguing that financial aid should be, running down the side, starting at the very top on your tuition page, so that it is impossible to miss the opportunity that there is, this budget of financial aid at the school. These are the percentage of families who receive it, if that's something that's impressive. This is the median income of a family who receives any level of aid at our school, getting people thinking, oh, wow, I fall within that income. Okay, so I might actually get some aid, versus I don't consider myself, underprivileged, so I'm not even going to, ask about this. When you give them data that they cannot ignore and that could potentially encourage them, I think that is really, really helpful. So that's a huge piece of this, is that whether or not you list tuition on your tuition page, you should be making it very, very clear what the financial aid opportunities are, so that you're proving that this could be accessible to a family and at least worth asking about if the tuition isn't listed. And, I've heard the saying, clear is kind. I really believe that. I think being clear about, hey, we have this program, this is what we offer, here are the stats. That's kind to your prospective families.
100%. And I'll share this too, to just kind of bring the point home even more. So I know I did this in an episode a few weeks back, or depending on when this actually airs. I don't know, but it might have been further back than that. Talking about there's a lot of psychological things that are happening when somebody goes to the admissions page. And so let's say your tuition is $10,000, just for simple math. You might have a family that can afford a lot more than that comes to the site and goes, ooh, it's a cheap school. It's an affordable school. I need to find a better school, because the better schools, of course, are more money, is what they're going to maybe think psychologically. And that's like, obviously that is, not the case. It's not the truth, but that's what's happening psychologically in their mind. Then you got those that maybe can't afford 10,000, and they come in, they go, oh my goodness, we could never afford that. It's $1,000 a month. We couldn't do that. So now they're off and they're trying to go maybe back to a public school or another private school or charter school, whatever it is. And you're like, well, no, we have all these options available. Like we could help them, but they don't know that, especially if they just are looking at the numbers specifically. So like Dale was saying, you have to really have a trained staff if you do it this way, where they call in and you're not like it's $10,000, have a great day, and you click hang up. Like that's literally solved nothing for the whole problem we're trying to solve here. But if you say, oh, we have a document that kind of goes over all the options, as well as our $250,000 in tuition aid that we have available at the school. Like, can I send you that document via email? Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. Because you definitely don't want to be the one that's like trying to go around the answer a little bit, because I know I get frustrated with that. If I call and I say, how much is tuition? And they said, well, let me get your information first. And like that, I wouldn't want somebody to jump right into that. I would want them to be like, well, we have this document that kind of goes over all the details of like what's all in there and our tuition aid. Like it has to be properly explained, or you're just going to, yes, you will frustrate people. So again, there's pros and cons to each side of this. Here's what I've told schools that are on the fence, and I'm telling all of you guys this as well. If you currently have it on your website and you're going, I don't know if I want to do that. Well, here's the beauty about websites. They're digital. You can change it and you can change it right back. So give it 3 months. Try it for 3 months and see, did we get more inquiries? Did more people call or more people submit a question asking for tuition? And if it did, and you feel like it worked, cool, keep it off. Or if you feel like you didn't like it, put it back on. If you really feel like you have to have it on there, it's not like you're printing all this in stone here that you can't ever go back on it. So encourage you guys to give it a try if you are one of those that are on the fence about it, and see if it works. But your tuition is your greatest lead generation source that you guys have at the school, because that's what people are going to want to know. So use it to your advantage. What do you think, Dale?
Absolutely.
Cool. So, you mentioned a couple others. You're going to have to refresh me on the earlier ones, because there was a couple I did want to touch on, but see, I don't have them written down in front of me.
Well, I talked about stats and infographics. I talked about links to other strong content on other pages of the site, testimonials from current families and others. And of course, we talked about the easy access to financial aid, payment plan informations, and then calls to action.
Hey, I just want to take a really quick break from the podcast to highlight one of our amazing partners and sponsors, ClassReach. If you're a new school administrator or founder and are struggling to keep up with all the hassles of planting a new school, like collecting tuition, communicating with parents, or handling student data, then you need ClassReach. ClassReach is the all-in-one software that helps with everything from admissions and tuition to classroom management and parent communications. Sign up for a free consultation with one of their school specialists and see how ClassReach can help your school grow today. You guys can check them out online, classreach.com. They are a kingdom-minded company, and I love their leadership team there. I've become friends with a lot of them. They truly are a great company. I support them and I love them, and you guys will love them too. Check them out at classreach.com. Now, back to the show. Calls. I love a good CTA, good clean call to action. So let's do this. You've done this a while. You are really good at coaching people on the admissions page and different pieces. If a school's listening and they're going, holy smokes, there's 9 here. Maybe they're struggling in all 9 of them, but they really, to not overwhelm them, because I really want, as you guys, whoever listens for a while, I always want you to take at least one thing away that you can take back. So if there was, let's say, 1 to 3 things out of the whole list, Dale, that we say, hey, if you at least do these 3 from off today, like you'll be way ahead than you are today. What would be maybe your 3 main ones out of the 9?
I would say first, testimonials. Any school who knows their families knows who to go to for a strong recommendation. And I find, because it's something that I do for my clients often in interviewing community members, is they truly love to rave about their school and their experience, and they do it in such a specific and convincing way. It's very authentic. So just talk to some of your biggest believers and prioritize parents, and just get a quick photo of them, get them to send you a photo, and then boom, put that testimonial up. Not just on the tuition page, but definitely on the tuition page. And you can reuse it other places. Always ask when you are interviewing a parent or a student or a faculty member, ask them a range of questions so that you can maybe get quotes for various areas of your website. And for the purpose of the tuition page, ask them about value. Be direct. I've said to parents, what is it? I know that private school tuition is an investment, and it's a real sacrifice for a lot of families. What makes it worth it? When you get that tuition contract every year, that enrollment contract, what makes it worth it to you to sign it again? So ask questions that are direct, and I believe that they will share wonderful things with you. So if you can get some testimonials up there, and that's not video necessarily, that could just be written with a photo. And then I think the general overview statement at the top that is not shying away from value and investment like language, right? Like let's meet people where they're at. And the people that I talk to, because I've redone several tuition pages, is it really matters to them, this investment. It's big, it's weighty. So meet people where they're at with that, and just be really direct with that overview statement of, this is not just any other page of the website. And then I think, if video is a little more challenging for you, get some images, some really strong images. I think that we think, oh, well, I have this curricular image where I've got this teacher leaning over this really cool science lab, and I'm putting that on, the curriculum page for that, age level. You can use that on the tuition page. Like, that is what people want to pay for, is that one-on-one engaging curriculum. So if video is too much for you right now, get some really great images up there. And it's okay if they're used other places. It's okay. Reuse your strong images.
Perfect. All right. Well, there you go, guys. 3 things you should be tackling out of the 9 if you were to pick a few that you wanted to tackle first and foremost. But I know in all this, Dale, you're also really good at content writing and content creation. And so let's say the schools are listening, maybe that's a struggle of theirs. What are some, maybe 3? I love 3s. So let's say, what are 3 like suggestions or tips or strategies would you give in just general for like content writing? If they're trying to maybe write their own web content, maybe writing some social media content or anything, what are some things schools should be thinking of when they're writing and creating their content?
Number 1 is easy for me. Don't write too much. After you write something for your website, if you have trouble trimming it down, which most people do because our words become very precious to us, put it into AI, put it into ChatGPT and say, shorten this for me. Make it, a more informal tone for a website. The audience is prospective families, because we all need to acknowledge that is the primary audience of our school website. It's not current families. I know you've talked about that, Mitchell. So number 1, do not write so many words. Very, very few. Engage them more with imagery and media. And number 2, I would say less telling and more showing. And that sort of leads more into number 3, which is just an overall tone of storytelling. So there are so many great stories to be told in schools. Schools are places of amazing, miraculous transformation. When a child goes from point A to point B, and truly it jumpstarts their entire life, their love of learning, their passions, and prepares them for their future. So tell the story of that transformation. Tell the stories of your faculty. Oh, they're so interesting. And that's what parents are paying for, is for faculty to influence their children. Tell the stories of alums who, have gone on to maybe not just do amazing things, but do things that really matter to them, where, their education and their experience at the school empowered them. And I think that authentic storytelling approach is really the most effective one. So that sort of involves a deeper dive. It's probably a whole nother podcast episode on, how do you develop key messages that support your brand framework and sort of diversify them throughout your entire website. But the tone of those key messages and the way that they're written should be, in my opinion, a storytelling, authentic style that is sweet and short and really captures the emotions of the reader.
Are there any common ones you see kind of missed by schools right now? And if you start to work with them, like maybe they are too long and they need to shorten them, but is there other ones that maybe just you kind of see over and over again? Maybe they're spending too much time talking about themselves versus like, hey, here's what your student could be at our school. Like maybe there's some common ones. I'm sure you've done this a while, or you can pick up on a couple of like, I wouldn't do this if at all possible. What are some of those that come to mind?
Oh yeah, paragraphs and paragraphs of text. Where it's actually very easy for things that are not updated to get missed. And also just a tone of, again, telling, just being very informational, which is not engaging to the reader, and it's not going to draw them in and get them to act. And yeah, I just say that schools tend to get really, really passionate about things like curriculum and certain programs, but it's just too much. It can be overwhelming to the audience. And so, you can put into, for your current families, a curriculum guide, all the details on every single course and the philosophy behind it. But what do prospective families really need to know? And what are they going to be able to absorb? That needs to be distilled, to like, here's a couple of sample courses, some of the most interesting ones that students and parents alike go, ooh, that is so cool. I would love to have the opportunity to take that class. You don't need to tell them what the prerequisites are on the public facing webpage. You don't need to tell them every single thing they're going to do in that class. You really distill it down, and don't let your passions as an academic, which is a wonderful thing. We need you, but don't let that drive the marketing, because those are two very different things.
That's good. No, so true. All right, you guys, hopefully everybody's been taking notes. And if not, you can always rewatch the episode, put it on 1.5 speed. Because I feel like we're talking slow enough. You can do 1.5 speed, save a little bit of time as well, and soak in this knowledge, make your admissions page better, and get ready for, obviously, enrollment in the fall is almost here already by the time you guys are listening to this episode. But it's the perfect time to start working on next year's enrollment cycle as well, and start thinking about what you guys can do, what you can improve now to prepare for fall of 2026 enrollment, which again will be here before we know it. Dale, I want to ask you one final question before we go. It will be, if you were to share one more piece of advice with the school leaders listening, what would that one piece of advice be?
Listen well. I think the key to good marketing is listening. You need to listen to your current communities. You need to get their honest feedback. You need to listen to your prospective families and what they're really looking for, so that you know what piece of what your school does and how you're unique connects with that. And I think in listening well, then we can put out a message that truly meets people where they need to be met. And maybe listening looks like surveying your current families. Maybe listening looks like doing interviews for testimonials and social proofs and blog posts and things like that. Maybe it just means getting together, in the evening with, a little group of parents and just letting them talk. But listening is so important in marketing and in life.
Ain't that the truth? That's for sure. All right. Before you go, Dale, share a way people can contact you if they want to get in touch with you and your website.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at @Seabury_consulting. You can find me on LinkedIn, Dale Seabury, and you can find my website, seabury-consulting.com. And if anyone would like to do a 30-minute chat with me, I offer that complimentary at any time. I'd love to talk through your marketing woes and what keeps you up at night. This is what lights me up, and I love chatting with and meeting people.
Love it. Well, Dale, thank you for all you're doing to help schools, and thank you for taking time out of your day to hop on the School Success podcast. Love what you're doing and wishing you nothing but the best. So thanks so much.
Thanks for having me, Mitchell.
Well, another huge shout out and a thank you to Dale for taking time and being on the podcast today. I love what she's doing to help schools with their content creation as well as ideas for their admissions page, which is so incredibly important. So if you guys need to, please go back and listen to this episode to refresh and make your admissions page the best possible page it can be. And obviously check out Dale if you're any of the services that she is offering. If those interest you, go check out her website and get in touch with her on Instagram and LinkedIn. She's pretty awesome. So make sure you're getting over there and connecting with her. And as always, guys, I'm hoping you'll take at least one thing away from each episode that you can take back to your school to make it better than it is right now. And there was a few in there when it comes to updating your admissions page. So I'm hoping you guys were at least update at least one of those things on the page, because I'm sure not all of you are doing all of them, all 9. So write it down, focus on it, update your admissions page, and make it better. And before you guys go, I want to highlight our 3 free resources we want to make sure you're tuning into and taking advantage of. The first one is, of course, great job what you're doing right now. It's the School Success Podcast, where we're dropping episodes, new ones, every Monday morning. So make sure you're subscribed and you're tuning in to getting the episodes. They're typically around that 30 to 40 minute range. So if you were to listen to it on time and a half, probably an easy commute drive that you can put on the way to school, or maybe when you're in the classroom grading papers, you can have this on in the background and you can be growing in your education knowledge and how to be a better teacher, administrator, or whatever the role is you guys have at your school right now. But that's the podcast. So if you haven't left us a review, we would love a review from you guys as well. And then on the second one is on our website, schoolsuccessmakers.com. In the top right-hand corner, you can subscribe to the School Success Report. We send it out every single week with different articles and things the team has put together to make you, the school admin, administrator, teacher, more successful, because that is what we're about here at School Success. So please make sure you're subscribing to that as well on our website. And last but not least, the private Facebook community, School Success Makers. Make sure you're in there. Completely free, guys. Go in there, meet local teachers and educators maybe in your area. Hopefully they're in there. And if they're not, you can invite them to join the group, because again, it's completely free, but you can use it to ask questions and get to know other school leaders that are in the industry as well. And I'm personally in there. Would love to see you in there as well. If you guys are in this midst of marketing and enrollment or whatever you're in the midst of, if we can help you here at School Success, we would love to do that. We're helping you guys fill empty seats, grow your waiting list. And if you don't have a waiting list, we can help you guys get a waiting list. So we're here to help, and we want to make you guys as successful as you possibly can be. So please keep tuning in every single week for new episodes so you guys can continue to grow as educators. So we'll be back here next week with another awesome guest as usual on the School Success Podcast. We'll see you then.
The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Herzog Foundation.